Part 1 Recap on July 16, 1945 at 5:29 a.m. on the Alamagordo Bombing Range. The first nuclear detonation Trinity was conducted. We were led to believe we were testing out the first nuclear weapon so it could be used against our enemies. A man who only goes by the name of WB worked closely with one of the scientists at Los Alamos, whom he refers to as kilogram. He claims there was something far more sinister the government was trying to destroy in the blast at the beginning of March 1945. 3 men were sent to scout off that Alamagordo range as a possible test detonation site. Something mysterious and horrific happened to 2 of the men, Miller and Jones. WB and Kilogram were brought down to see the bodies and a wooden box that was next to them. The box had the Roman numerals DCLXBI on it along with some Sumerian language. A hangar named DCL-16 was constructed over the bodies and the box. WB and Kilogram began studying the bodies of Miller and Jones along with the wooden box. WB went into the hangar one morning and the bodies were gone. WB along with 2 soldiers tracked the footprints to the McDonald Ranch house while KG was following another set of footprints leading to the mountains. End of recap. Part 2 When we got to the house, one of the soldiers instructed me to stay in the truck as they searched the house and surrounding area. I had no problem with that as I watched them get out and begin searching. About 25 minutes later they came back saying, "Welcome to Dark Road Legends ... where fear takes form and shadows tell their stories. Let's begin." They found nothing and the footprints stopped at the steps leading into the house, but there was nothing inside. We spent the rest of the day driving around but never found anything. When we made it back to the hangar, KG and the other soldiers were already there. We discussed searching again the following day, and if we still came up empty-handed, we planned on going to Los Alamos to get more help to aid in the search. None of us said much, but I know we were all thinking, how is it even humanly possible the bodies could be up and moving on their own? But again, nothing made sense since this all began that night as we ate dinner together. There was an unspoken uneasiness in the air. I could tell this soldiers like me didn't want to be there. K seemed to be the only one who wasn't too bothered by what was going on. I think the scientist in him was rang and everything. That night as I lay asleep I was awakened to one of the soldiers yelling out, "Help me, it's got me." I grabbed my flashlight, jumped off my cot and ran out of my tent. I shined my light on the other tents as the other men and Kilogram were coming out when I noticed something out of the corner of my eye coming from the hangar. I moved my light over there just as I saw the doors to the hangar close. "Hey you guys, the hangar," I shouted. We then took off towards the hangar. When we got to the door we all looked at each other with no one wanting to be the first one to go in. One of the soldiers finally stepped up, grabbed the handle, took a deep breath and opened the door. The generator was off, of course, at that time, and we didn't think to start it before going inside, so it was dark except for the flashlights we were carrying. As we stepped inside we didn't see anything in the immediate area. The wooden box and bodies were behind the wall we constructed. The soldier leading the way pointed towards the wall, indicating he was going that way as he started creeping along as the rest of us followed. The soldiers were all armed, but I often wondered if their rifles would be of any help at all considering what we'd all seen. I imagine it made them feel safe, though when the soldier made it to the wall and stuck his head around to have a look, we were expecting something horrible to happen, but instead he looked back at us with a confused, almost surprised expression. "What is it?" asked Kilogram. "Come have a look for yourself," the soldier responded. He then went and stuck his head around the wall just enough so he could see. "This can't be. What on earth is going on?" he said as he proceeded to walk around the wall. We quickly followed, and I remember walking around the wall and not believing my own eyes. There on the ground were the bodies of Miller and Jones, but now also the soldier we'd heard yelling out for help. His body looked just like Miller and Jones. Something was different now. Now though the wooden box was open to us. It never appeared to have a lid or a way to open it. I looked over at Kilogram and was about to ask him what we should do next when I could see he had this puzzled look on his face. He then walked over to the box, shined his flashlight in it and said, "It's empty, nothing's in it." All of a sudden our flashlights went out and I could hear a muffled noise, the sound someone makes when their mouth is covered but they're trying to speak. Hey, let's get out of here now," shouted one of the soldiers. I said nothing, just turned to run, but hit the wall hard, almost falling down and dropping my flashlight in the process. It was pitch black in there, but I was able to feel my way along the wall until I came to the door. I was the first one out the door as the other two soldiers came clambering right out behind me. I hardly shut the door and my first thought was something must have gotten Kilogram. I kept my shoulder on the door hoping I would hear him come knock to be let out, but he never did. The three of us talked about what to do and decided to back one of the trucks up against the door so nothing could come out, then drive back to Los Alamos to inform the others. After backing one of the trucks up against the door, we hopped in another truck and took off for Los Alamos. About halfway there we noticed some headlights coming at us. As we got closer we noticed it was one of the Army's GMC Jimmys, and it must have noticed us too because it slowed down and pulled in front of us to stop us. One of the higher-ups, Doctor, the one who I had suspected KG had been keeping in the loop, the real person in charge, jumped out and ran up to us saying he had something very important to tell us. He said the man who had been assigned to decipher the Swan language on the box was able to figure out the rest of it. He said it read, "Witchcraft will raise the dead every 30 days, who will finish bringing the 5 souls needed to grant the ruler their throne." I was at a loss for words and couldn't believe what I was hearing. He could see the expression on my face and asked, "What is it, WB? Speak up." I then told him everything that had happened over the last few days. When I finished telling him, he ran back to the truck, talked to the driver for a few minutes, then came running back to our truck and hopped in. "What's going on, sir?" I asked him. "Start driving back and I'll tell you," he replied. The soldier nodded his head, made a U-turn and started heading back. "We're going to stop whatever this is dead in its tracks." The man who deciphered the language also showed me things I shall never get out of my head. If the 5 souls are taken, I've always believed that pure evil from somewhere else could one day exist in our world, but now it's been confirmed. I instructed my driver to go back to Los Alamos, get more men and get enough chain link fence and other materials required to enclose the hangar so nothing can escape it. "You said you block the door with the truck." "Well, we're going to keep it that way. No one is going back inside that hangar. Is that understood?" He said, "Yes, sir." The soldiers and I replied. When we made it back to the hangar, nothing had changed. The truck was still against the door and the rest of our camp looked undisturbed. A day later, several more GMC Jimmy showed up carrying the fence and necessary supplies. They didn't waste any time constructing the enclosure. Doctor asked me to talk to him in private and tell him the story again in case I missed anything. He was childhood friends with Kilogram and I could see tears roll down his cheeks when I said what happened in the hangar. We both knew we'd never see him again. I asked him what was going to happen now and he said, "We're accelerating the test detonation of the bomb and it will take place right here. So hopefully we can destroy whatever is inside that hangar." Like always, I of course was sworn to secrecy about everything I'd seen. The only people I was allowed to discuss it with were the 2 other soldiers who were with me the entire time. After the enclosure was built, I went back to Los Alamos and guards were stationed at Hangar DCLXBI full-time until it was time to test the bomb. I'm not sure of the exact time frame, but after the bomb was tested they sent men back there to see if the hangar and everything inside was destroyed. It, of course, was except for one thing, the old wooden box. It remained in the exact spot where Miller and Jones had found it. Doctor told me they constructed a custom-built, concrete grave liner to put over it in 1965. The Army decided that wasn't enough and built the Trinity Site Monument over the concrete grave liner. As well, I've kept this a secret for a good portion of my life, and it's eaten at me. Not many will believe what I've told you, but at least I was able to tell it before I die and move on to the next life. WB's family has kept this story close to their chest for a long time for fear of ridicule and possible repercussions. For more scary horror stories, thank you for joining Dark Rot Legends. Subscribe for more tales of terror if you dare.